And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Great program today. Call with your car questions at 888 Car Clinic. With us on the line now is BRIAN Moody, Executive Editor, Autotrader.com. Brian's responsible for delivering timely, straightforward, and unbiased automotive information to the site's 17 million in-market shoppers, including new and used car reviews, auto show coverage, car shopping tips, and daily automotive news stories. Brian, that's a very big bill to fill. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you in the house.
Thank you. It's a fun job, I have to admit.
I can just imagine narrowing down choices can be overwhelming at times. Share with our Car Clinic listeners and viewers, what do you recommend shoppers do once they arrive at the dealership?
Well, once you arrive at the dealership, you should already have made some pretty crucial choices, at least about the type of vehicle that you want, about your budget, and importantly, you should already know your credit score. Good or bad, you don't want to be in for a surprise once you get there. So once you get to the dealership, you can start looking at things like, what trim level do I want on the Honda or Chevrolet? Do I want the LT or the EX, leather, sunroof? What does the color look like when I'm there in person? You can do those things at the dealership and decide which cars are worth test driving that work for your life.
Well, you mentioned test drive. How can a shopper make the most of the test drive?
Well, our advice is always there's three specific things. One, take a long test drive. 5 minutes around the block on the freshly paved roads near the auto mall is not good enough to make a $30,000, $40,000, or maybe even a $50,000 decision. The second thing is make sure that you test drive the technology. Make sure that you pair your phone at a minimum, make a phone call with it, and make sure it sounds good because you're going to be using, listen, new cars have a lot of technology. Your old car probably didn't have that. Make sure it works the way you want and that it's easy to use. And also, when you're on the test drive, make sure the seat is comfortable and make sure that you bring all your stuff, like your baby seats and your pet and your strollers, everything that you're going to want to fit into the car, you're going to make sure that it will fit. I even think you should measure your garage space and make sure the car will fit there if you're uncertain.
That sounds like a lot of information to me. And I can say from my experience, when I drive up behind someone who is obviously testing a new car, they drive very slowly. They're not quite sure of which way they're going to turn. You can just tell that they're driving a brand new car. And you're right. It's generally around the block. We're talking with BRIAN Moody, Executive Editor of Video for Autotrader.com. So what else can someone do in addition to measuring for his or her garage, and what vehicles make the must-test drive list for 2017?
Well, to your point, I think one thing you should do is make sure you drive on a variety of roads. Freeway, small street, boulevard, do all that and see how the car feels. That's important. This is how you're going to use the car. So we have a list of 12 cars in a variety of price ranges and a variety of vehicle types because we didn't think that one car of the year, for example, was enough. People might not want that car or that kind of car. So we have 12. I'll give you a few examples of cars that we think are worth people's time to go take a test drive. For example, there's the new Lincoln Continental. Now, that's a luxury car, but boy, I'll tell you, this thing, they got it 100% right. This is a car, if you're in the market for a luxury sedan or a luxury car, worth taking a test drive. On the other end of the spectrum, the Subaru Impreza is an inexpensive small sedan or small five-door wagon with all-wheel drive. Also, very engaging to drive, surprisingly nice inside. We think the Chevy Bolt is one of those also. That's an all-electric car with a range of 238 miles. That's an excellent electric car. And then we think the Nissan Armada is one that's worth test driving. It's a full-size, truck-based V8-powered SUV, and the inside, the outside, the way it drives, all great for a person who needs a large SUV that can tow and go off-road. But there's more than that. Those are just a few of the ones that are the highlights. There's obviously more information out there if you want to look that up.
Well, speaking of information, where can our Car Clinic listeners and viewers go for more information, Brian?
Well, there's a lot of information on Autotrader.com/must-test-drive, and what we have there is a page dedicated to all 12 of these cars. Each one has its own video explaining why it's on our list, and there's other information about taking a test drive and making the most of that time. You can also see previous winners in case you're looking for more than one car or you're looking for a used car.
And one final question, this is probably the toughest. How many cars are listed on Autotrader.com?
Oh my gosh, that is a tough one, but it's in the millions. There's so many, and that's a good thing, because if you sort the car that you're looking for, new, used, certified, whatever you want, and you only want a new car with, say, leather seats and a sunroof, you can do that and make the most of that huge, inventory that's there and find just the right car for you. Again, researching before you even go to the dealer. Then go down to the dealership and say, I want to test drive this one.
And now you're armed, you can make a better deal, and you're comfortable knowing that you've driven the car that you intend to buy, and because once you sign and pay for it on the dotted line, it's yours. Yeah. Brian, thanks so much for joining us on Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Brian Moody, Executive Editor of Video for Autotrader.com. Brian, thanks again for joining us today.
Yep. Thank you for having us.